In the Green Hill village of Nadar in Kerala, police arrive at a hotel where a newly married couple is on their honeymoon. The wife is furious because her diamond ring is missing, and she is certain it was stolen. One of the officers is Giri, a young cop who is sharp and unusually good at reading people. He checks the husband's beat-up car, then borrows the man's phone to look at a photo of the wife wearing the ring. While he does that, he notices the husband shifting his foot in a strange way. He asks the man to take off his shoe, and the case cracks open right there. Nobody stole the ring. The husband hid it in his own shoe. Back at the station, Gary explains how he knew. The husband looked broke, from the worn-out car to the bald tires. So Gary checked his phone history and found searches about diamond value and resale prices. It is a tiny case, but his superior Sukumaran is impressed and tells the team to learn from him. This is the story of a man who catches thieves because he thinks exactly like one. The next morning, Gary stops by his favorite coffee stall. On the way, he passes Lakshmi, his old school friend and neighbor. At the stall, he talks with the local men, including a loudmouth named Suresh, but none of them respect him. He is new, low-ranked, and still a nobody in their eyes. Gary lives with his elderly mother Valsan, who suggests that Lakshmi would make a good wife. Lakshmi is devoted, still single, and the daughter of the village's traditional ritual man, who has never managed to find her a match. Gary clearly likes her, but he says nothing. Then a local man takes his own life, and most people assume business losses pushed him over the edge. Lakshmi's father, Manoharan, asks Gary to convince his superiors to skip the autopsy, because in his belief, this kind of death is unnatural, and he wants to perform a cleansing ritual before the cremation. Giri passes the request to the head officer, Pillai, who is days away from retirement. The autopsy happens anyway as a formality, and afterward a Swami friend of Manoharan leads a purification ritual at the mourning house. The village priest is annoyed because Manoharan is an outsider, yet the villagers trust him more than their own priest. At Pillai's farewell party, a man who once mocked Giri is dragged in for smuggling narcotics on his motorcycle. He begs for help, but Giri remembers the insult and pushes for him to be jailed. Pillai notices the grudge and warns him not to let small wounds turn into obsessions. Then Pillai retires and Inspector Hari takes over, a strict and uncompromising man. One officer, Vinod, already knows him and warns the others that Hari is dangerously good at catching thieves. It becomes obvious fast that Hari does not like Giri, and he trusts Vinod and the rest of the team far more. Things get worse at a kabaddi tournament that Hari opens. A dispute with the referee turns into chaos. Suresh jumps in to make it worse, and Giri slaps him out of old spite. Hari will not tolerate it. He grabs Giri and throws him into the mud while the entire crowd laughs and films it, with Lakshmi standing right there watching. The video spreads fast. The next day, a wealthy, well-connected man named Shaji mocks Giri at the coffee stall, and when Giri arrives at the station late, Hari scolds him in front of everyone. Feeling despised by his boss, his colleagues, and the whole village, Giri vents to Pillai, who again tells him to let it go. He cannot. That night, he ends up drinking at another stall, where he overhears a drunk named Manian, a former professional thief. Years ago, a brutal officer caught Manian and beat him, and instead of moving on, Manian chose revenge. He started stealing in every district that officer was transferred to, ruining the man's career with an endless string of unsolved thefts, and he was never caught again. That story plants a dangerous idea in Giri's head. He sits down with Manian over drinks and asks him how a thief steals without getting caught. Manian knows instantly that he is a cop, but he shares everything anyway. There are two kinds of thieves. Some steal for money, and some steal because they are addicted to the thrill. For Manian, that thrill beats alcohol and women, which is why he prefers robbing houses while the owners are still inside. He breaks down the whole craft, from planning a job, to slipping in and out of a house, to fooling tracking dogs and dodging the police. After that night, Giri cannot focus on anything else, and he decides to test himself. His target house is locked up, so he climbs a tree onto the roof, slips in through the tiles, and plans an escape route before entering the bedroom where the owners are sleeping. He takes only 5,000 rupees, but when the husband suddenly coughs, Giri panics, drops something, and wakes the couple. He wore gloves, so the next morning when the police arrive, including Giri himself acting perfectly normal, there are no fingerprints. Hari and Sukumaran are stuck on one question. Why would a thief go through all that effort for such a small amount of cash? Then a call comes in about a fight near a school, and Giri asks to handle it. The moment he leaves, the team finds a sandal near the tree, and Hari realizes the thief entered through the roof. A tracking dog is brought in, and it bolts straight toward the spot where Giri is handling the fight. Gary tenses as the dog barks. Then Vinod asks who the sandal belongs to, and it turns out it belongs to one of the men in the fight who lost it the day before. That is another of Manian's tricks, a planted sandal to send the dogs in the wrong direction. After pulling that off, Gary gets bold. Night after night, he keeps stealing, always escaping because he has already mapped his way out. The cases pile up, each one done differently, until the police suspect there is more than one thief, and the villagers lose faith in them. No matter how many officers Hari deploys, Gary slips through, sometimes even blending in by pretending to hunt the thief alongside everyone else. One day at the stall, Shaji brags that no thief would ever dare rob his house, since he has friends high up in the police. Giri takes it as a personal challenge. That night, he breaks in and finds nothing valuable at first. Then he remembers Manian's advice, that a real thief acts like the house is his own and digs deeper. Hidden inside a laundry basket is a stash of cash from land sales. When Shaji discovers the theft, he explodes at Hari. The only other person who knew about that money is Shaji's subordinate, an old schoolmate of Giri. Giri uses that connection, spreading word that the man was a thief back in school and was the only one with access. Hari takes the bait and has him beaten during interrogation, but the man insists he is innocent. Giri then whispers around the coffee stall that Hari is framing an innocent man to protect his own reputation. Hari releases the suspect for lack of evidence, and the man loudly blames the police. Shaji calls in a deputy inspector to review Hari, and Giri quietly smiles because his plan is working. Soon the villagers, led by Suresh, stage a protest demanding that Hari resign, and Giri deliberately slaps Suresh again to tip it into a full riot. That is when a deputy inspector named Thambi arrives. He disperses the crowd, confirms the suspect's release, and then tears into Hari in private. With 16 thefts in such a short window, he gives Hari 3 days to solve the case. Once Thambi leaves, Giri suggests they find someone to take the blame temporarily, just to ease the pressure and buy time. Hari hesitates, but he agrees, and the plan stays between the two of them. That night, Giri offers Manian the role of fake suspect, paying 5,000 rupees up front and promising the rest later. By morning, word spreads that Giri caught the thief, and when he walks in with Manian, the crowd cheers him like a hero. But this is a trap inside a trap. While the officers eat, Giri visits Manian's cell, warns him that Hari plans to pin everything on him, and secretly hands him a spare handcuff key. The whole thing is designed to make Giri look brilliant while wrecking Hari for good. Giri leaves for a land dispute, and Hari, Vinod, and another officer take Manian to a crime scene to reenact the theft. Manian asks to use the restroom, escapes through the window, and swims across a river. All 3 officers are suspended, and Sukumaran is assigned to hunt Manian down. By now, Hari suspects Giri is the puppet master behind all of it. Before leaving, he confronts Giri directly, wondering aloud whether the real thief is Giri or Manian, and promising that once he recaptures Manian, Giri is next. The next day at the bank, Giri sees a priest named Rama withdrawing a large sum of money. The teller warns him to be careful with all the recent thefts, but Rama waves it off, convinced no thief would ever target his home. That arrogance lodges itself in Giri's brain. Meanwhile, Hari orders his suspended men to watch Giri while also tracking Manian. At home, Giri tells himself he is done stealing since his grudge against Hari is settled. But Rama's smug confidence keeps gnawing at him. This is the turning point. Giri is no longer stealing for revenge. Just as Manian warned him, he is now simply addicted. Giri breaks into Rama's house through the roof and heads for the money cabinet. But Rama is ready and gets a clear look at his face. Giri escapes, and the panic hits immediately because now a man can identify him. He packs his bags and flees Kerala, hesitating only at the sight of his sick mother coughing that night, and he still walks away and checks into a motel far from the village. Guilt eats at him. He cannot stop thinking about his mother, so he goes back to accept whatever comes. But when he returns, an officer stops him and says Sukumaran has been looking for him. Giri expects the station. Instead, he is taken to a crime scene. Rama is dead. He died before he could ever report the break-in, and nobody, not even his own family, knows Giri was there. Rama's wife is confused too, because her husband had seemed happy lately. As the body is carried away, Giri senses something is off. He spots fresh tire marks and quietly pockets a bit of soil as evidence. Later, at the funeral rituals, Giri remembers a suspicious van parked near his escape route that night. He follows the lead, finds matching tire tracks, and photographs them. Then his phone buzzes. An unknown number sends him a video of Giri fleeing Rama's house, his face fully visible. He is not just a thief anymore. He could be framed as the killer. He scans the crowd. But whoever is watching has vanished, and the number is switched off. Giri rushes to Pillai and lays out his analysis. A body usually releases waste at the moment of death, and it should fall to the ground. But on Rama, it was found on his clothing, which means he was killed elsewhere and staged. He points to marks on the rope, as if it had been dragged across metal, plus the tire tracks. None of it fits a suicide. Then he confesses that he broke into Rama's house and was seen. Pillai is furious, unable to accept that a police officer has been robbing his own village out of revenge. Giri admits he cannot control himself whenever someone looks down on him, because it always becomes a challenge he has to win, and he wants to turn himself in. But Pillai sees something deeper and takes him to a psychologist the next day. The verdict is clear. Giri has an impulse control disorder. He cannot resist urges, and his enormous ego treats every insult as a battle he must win, which is exactly what feeds his addiction to stealing. The only way to redirect that drive is to give him a challenge bigger than theft. So Pillai tells Giri to forget about Rama's death, saying it is far too complicated for someone of his low rank. Predictably, this lights a fire in Giri, who becomes determined to crack it, especially since the killer basically dared him with that video. From this point on, Pillai steers Giri's obsession away from stealing and toward the case. Giri traces the number to Tamil Nadu, though Pillai warns that phone data can be faked. Giri also mentions a strange smell on Rama's clothing, the same odor found on earlier victims. And in the video, right after Giri escaped, Rama was staring toward that parked van, which suggests the killer had been watching him for a long time. But Pillai offers a chilling alternative. Maybe the killer was never there for Rama at all. Maybe he was following Giri. Meanwhile, Hari tells Vinod he believes Giri ordered Manian to commit the thefts. Vinod found Manian's handcuffs in the forest, and since the spare key is missing from the station, he is certain Giri helped him escape. Giri tracks the number's address to Tamil Nadu, only to learn the owner took his own life a month earlier, supposedly over crushing debt. But the man's wife reveals that 2 days before his death, he told her all his debts had been cleared. That makes no sense, and Giri suspects another staged murder. As he digs into similar cases, he realizes someone is trailing him. He sets a trap and confronts the follower, and it turns out to be Manian, who has been shadowing him out of fear that Giri came to arrest him. Giri explains he is investigating a chain of suspicious deaths, but Manian does not buy it. He already knows how Giri operates, how he manipulated everything to ruin Hari and stage the escape. He even figured out that the toilet window bolts had been loosened in advance. Then he walks away. Back in Kerala, Giri gets another message. This one shows him right before he entered Rama's house, along with a threat to stop investigating or die. He brings everything to Pillai. The victims are all middle-aged, all carrying personal struggles that made their deaths look like believable suicides, which tells Giri the killer knows them personally and picks people whose situations can hide a murder. Every victim was hanged with a brand new rope, and the deaths are spaced about a month apart. Pillai urges Giri to hand the case to a higher department, but Giri refuses and shows him the latest threat. If they report it, the killer could release the footage, and everyone would assume Giri invented the murder theory to cover his own crimes. That night on the road, Giri feels the follower again. Giri resists, insisting there has to be a logical explanation, but Pillai reminds him that such beliefs are still alive, pointing to real cases of families ending their lives hoping to be reborn, and to ritual sacrifices in Kerala itself. He says the case is too big for the two of them, and tells Giri to come clean with Sukumaran. Then a call throws Giri into panic. Hari and Vinod have caught Manian again and are beating him to find out who gave him the spare key. But Manian refuses to expose Giri. He claims he stole the key himself during the protest, and he takes the beating instead. Later, Giri asks him why. Manian answers with his own code. Thieves do not betray each other, and deep down he believes Giri is not truly a bad man. Drowning in guilt, Giri promises he will not abandon Manian in prison. Soon after, Giri confesses everything to Sukumaran, who is stunned to learn Giri was the thief all along. Pillai asks him to back the investigation until the murders are solved, since the success would look good on him too. Sukumaran then shares a key detail. In the dead woman's bag, they found a paper tied to a ritual, and when Giri smells it, he recognizes that same strange scent. That sends Giri to the homes of the victims. Every single one of them had taken part in some ritual for personal gain, whether to boost a business or clear a debt, though none of the families knew what those rituals involved. Giri finds matching ritual papers in several of their homes. Determined to go deeper, Giri travels to a temple in Tamil Nadu and meets a Swami named Prasant. The moment he shows him the ritual paper, Prasant goes pale, and when Giri says everyone who used it is now dead, Prasant confirms the worst. This is an ancient practice said to consume human souls. It came from Tibet long ago and spread into parts of India. The belief is that the soul of a dead person can be transferred into the body of the one performing the ritual, granting immortality and supernatural power. It is always done on a new moon, and only someone who has lost all reason would still practice it. Prasant adds that he once heard rumors of a hidden temple in the border forest where a community kept the practice alive until a landslide destroyed the place. He owned a map to it, but it was stolen years ago by a young male student who came there to learn, only to be caught performing rituals at a grave while dressed in women's clothing. The student vanished with the map, and Prasant never recorded his name. Back in Nadara, the village priest can only read part of the paper, but he confirms it is meant for sacrifice and says he first heard about it from Manoharan. Giri goes straight to Manoharan, who says he learned of the ritual from a Swami named Dorai, the same Swami who led the purification in the village. By coincidence, Dorai is at the house that day, performing a ritual to help Lakshmi find a husband. Giri shows him the paper, and Dorai casually says the ritual takes place somewhere in the border forest, but gives no exact location. Then as Dorai walks away, a familiar smell drifts from his shawl. It is the same scent found on every victim. That is all Giri needs. He reports his suspicion to Pillai and Sukumaran. The next night is a new moon, which means if he is right, Dorai will strike again. Giri returns to Prasant for directions. Prasant cannot recall the exact path, but remembers it is deep in the forested hills of Kodakudi. Pillai knows a retired forest officer from that region, and Giri gets an old forestry map and a rough location. As evening falls, Giri follows the path and spots a vehicle identical to the one parked near Rama's house. He crosses a river on a small raft left behind. Deep in the forest, he finally gets a signal, and Sukumaran calls with terrible news. Dorai has taken Lakshmi for a ritual, and her parents are at the station, sick with fear. Then the signal drops. Giri keeps moving and reaches a hidden clearing full of statues and scattered stones, where the temple still stands, half buried by the landslide, its entrance now like a cave. Inside, he finds an altar and Lakshmi lying unconscious, already prepared to be hanged as part of the ritual. He rushes to free her, but the moment he touches the rope, something slams into the back of his head. When Giri wakes up, he is the one tied up, in Lakshmi's place, with Dorai standing over him. Giri will be killed and staged as a suicide, and the video of his theft will be released so everyone believes he ended his life out of shame. But the real shock is Lakshmi. She is not a victim. She is part of this. Dorai and Lakshmi have been working together the entire time, killing people as sacrifices in the belief that the souls of the dead would enter their bodies and grant them immortality and power. Lakshmi was the one sending the videos, and Dorai was the shadow that had been following Giri. At the same time, on the road, Manoharan reveals the truth about his daughter. Lakshmi is transgender, and she left Tamil Nadu for Kerala because she could no longer bear the judgment of her family and community. In his desperation, Manoharan turned to Dorai, believing the Swami could remove what he saw as a curse. Over the years, Lakshmi sank deeper into the rituals and drifted completely away from her parents. Back at the temple, the ritual begins, and Giri is set up as the sacrifice. But he has one last card. He always keeps a lighter in his back pocket. While Dorai and Lakshmi are absorbed in the ritual, he burns through the ropes on his hands and neck, breaks free, and attacks Dorai. Dorai is much bigger, and while Lakshmi prepares a fresh rope, Giri is overpowered and tied up again. As he is about to be hanged, he makes one last attempt to pull Lakshmi back to reason, but her mind is too far gone, so he knocks her unconscious. In that split second, as Dorai rushes over to check on her, Giri flips the fight. He loops the rope around Dorai's neck, braces it against a stone, and pulls until it is over. Months later, the case goes public. The news names Dorai as the mastermind, while Lakshmi is treated as both a victim of his manipulation and an accomplice. And reports explain how her struggles with identity and acceptance made her easy for Dorai to convince that she was special. The villagers are stunned that Manoharan trusted such dark beliefs and unknowingly led his own daughter into them. Lakshmi now faces trial. For Giri, life moves forward. Pillai and Sukumaran bring good news, telling him he has been selected for a special criminal investigation unit. But one thing has not changed. Not long after, a report comes in about another theft in the village. The moment it is mentioned, Pillai and Sukumaran slowly turn and look at Giri, because deep down, they already know. He solved the case, but the addiction never left him, and stealing is still the only thing that can quiet the urge inside. So the moral of the story is, if your therapist says you need a bigger challenge, maybe solve a crime, don't start a side hustle as the village thief.